Hello, everyone. You're listening to Heart Healing Conversations with Dawn and Janna. Every week, we pull back the curtain on the things that weigh us down and explore the tools that lift us up. From vulnerable stories to practical wisdom, we're diving deep into what it means to live wholeheartedly. And with that, I want to just welcome you all here today. Hi, Janna.
Hey Dawn, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Not too bad. It's been kind of an interesting week, but we're coming out on top.
Good. Yeah, I know. It's been interesting for me as well. I wanted to bring up something today in our conversation because I recently read something, and this is from someone who actually is practicing in the grief space.
Mhm.
And what they said was, as far as grief, you won't truly get over it or move on or let go.
Mm.
And the reason I'm bringing that up is there's a lot of individuals out there that feel like their losses lead to like a lifetime of pain and they're in that prison forever. And maybe at one point in my life, I believed that. But since becoming a grief recovery method specialist and working on my own healing, I have realized that that's not true. And so I just want to have a conversation with you today because I want people to know that there's hope beyond the pain that's living in their heart and that's taking over every aspect of their life because many people feel like there isn't hope.
It's so frustrating, especially with those of us in the grief space, to have that kind of misinformation coming out saying, I'm sorry you're grieving, but you're not ever going to get past this. Just get used to it. Unfortunately, I think that's what puts a lot of people against us and wanting to talk to us because they don't feel that it's never going to change.
Right.
Personally, I came into this space not even as the recovery specialist to start with. I came in to get the help because I was so stuck in my own pain. I
Mhm.
couldn't move forward in life, like daily decisions on what to make for dinner or to remember to buy something for dinner. I couldn't function. And I was
Mhm.
so tired of it. I knew I had to do something to change it because I knew that my life was not destined to be that ugly. I wasn't meant to spend all of my time, wallowing in my own self pity, if you will. I have kids that are still happy and need to grow and have a healthy, happy life. And
Mhm.
so I actually came through the program first. Within the first couple of meetings on this program, I felt a difference and I knew it was such life saving material that it had to be shared. And
Mhm.
so, I came forward and wanted to become a specialist too, so that I had the opportunity to share that, what, if I can come out of that deep pit of despair where I see nothing good about a day and actually find joy in a day again, find hope, find new reasons to even smile.
Mhm.
I know if I can do that, like anybody else can do that. As long as we have people on our side helping us walk through that muck
Mhm.
and coming out and also being there for us when we come out of there on the other side to be a consistent cheerleader, you know, that's how we're going to be able to help the world heal.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And I want to bring something up because I don't think we've really talked about it before, but as you know, the grief recovery method was started by John James over 40 years ago after he lost his son. And John was a Vietnam veteran. He was a Marine. And, Marines are seen, and anybody in the military is tough. And, they just keep plowing through life and just try and get over things. But he realized that he couldn't just get over that. And he looked for tools, and none of them proved to be helpful. He read lots of books on grief and finally realized that he was miserable and he didn't want to live a lifetime of pain and not have any sort of a happy life. And so he took it upon himself to develop the grief recovery method because he needed to heal his own heart. That's what he wanted.
Yep.
And he was able, I mean, he was a good friend of mine. He was able to have a really joyful life after he developed this and used this for all the relationships in his life, including the loss of a child. So he is a great example of someone who has stepped into healing and has created a different story moving forward.
I agree. I mean, in one of our previous conversations, we kind of talked about what brought us in as grief recovery specialists. And you mentioned, your divorce and how bad you felt too. And
Mhm.
this is just a great reminder that sometimes it really takes us being kind of at our worst and I'm done feeling this way before we feel that we are strong enough to take that step
Mhm.
out and say, I have to do something to change this.
Right.
I choose not to live in my misery for the rest of my life. I choose to find joy and happy again.
Hmm.
Granted, just stepping up, that's a huge step. That doesn't make it all go away on day one. You're still going to have to process and feel the feelings, feel all of the unmet hopes, expectations, and dreams. You have to process it still. That doesn't mean that down the road I'm still not going to be sad that I lost my son. It just
Right.
means that I'm going to look at it completely through different eyes. Like, yeah, I did lose my son, but
Hmm.
since then I've also gained another son.
Hmm.
It's just a completely different shift in how I choose to move forward in my life. It's a scary place to be when we define ourselves by our grief. I used to
Yeah.
define myself as I'm a stillborn mom.
Hmm.
I lost my long-term boyfriend of 10 years. He was killed in a drunk driving accident.
Hmm.
I defined myself only by my pain. I was
Yeah.
afraid of how do I say, well, I can still be a good person and a happy person on this side because, well, everybody knows me only in my pains. And
Hmm.
so, oh, well, they're pointing at me. Well, they must be talking about me and losing my child, feeling
Right.
sorry for me. And that wasn't necessarily the case. As soon as I started doing this healing work and showing up differently, a
Hmm.
little bit more confident, a little bit less sadness on my face, they see the changes and they're like, well, what are you doing? What's the difference here? Suddenly you seem more like your old self.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I felt the same thing. Like I had lived with all this pain for many years and didn't know how to feel better. I didn't think I could. I thought it was a life sentence of pain from many things that had happened early in my life. And once I did this work, I realized, no, it's not. Like now I look at these things that have happened, like, growing up with a dad and a stepdad that were addicted to alcohol, having an abusive relationship in my teenage years, getting a divorce. Now I view those as, well, yes, they were part of my story. They were chapters of my story, but I have many other chapters in my book, and a lot of them are really happy chapters. So I don't identify with those things. And as you were talking, I was thinking, I would recommend anybody listening to this is this just sit down and take a few minutes and think about those painful things that have happened in your life and how you identify with them, how they become your identity, whether it's someone who's lost a child or someone who's lost a parent or a divorcee, whatever it is. How do you let that become your identity? Because I think most of us do that. And the problem with that is it keeps us small.
I think it keeps us stuck in that
Yes.
ugly space. And I think it also brings up a fear of, but who will I be if I let this definition go?
Right. Right. And it's
Nobody will know
scary.
me.
And if we've lost someone due to death,
Mm.
what am I doing if I am able to heal and move forward? Do I deserve to be happy?
Mm.
So we question that. We feel bad. Some people say, well, I feel guilty. And I always talk about, well, the true definition is guilt is an intent to harm. And you don't have an intent to harm someone. You're just trying to live life in a more joyful way and not carry around that pain all the time.
Yeah.
But there is a fear,
Simple.
like, well, is this fair for me to be happy?
Yeah. I think we all, like you said, feel guilty that we're not carrying on the way our loved one would want us to. I've had to
Mhm.
remind several of, well, what is it do you really think that they would want you to do after they're
Right.
gone? Do you really think they want you to sit here and just watch TV and eat ice cream and just be sad all the time? Or do you
Mhm.
really think that they would like you to honor them by being out, whether it be in nature or, their favorite thing in the world was hiking? So, hey, let's go hike in their name, or I want to plant a tree in your name. Something as a good memory instead of being stuck in the headspace, I guess, that we allow ourselves to get into of I'm not good enough, I didn't do it well enough, they wouldn't want me to be happy, they wouldn't want me to find a replacement, anything.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. One thing that I've been thinking about as we've been talking is the 1% accountability that we talk about in the Grief Recovery Method program. Um, and that's we ask people to take at least 1% responsibility of the place they're in
Mm,
with the pain of some type of relationship. And where it oftentimes is a little tricky is someone says, and I have a personal experience of this, being in an abusive relationship, somehow victimized, right? Well, how can I take 1% responsibility for that? Well, we're not necessarily saying take 1% responsibility that um, you were victimized. What we're saying is take at least 1% responsibility that you're making the choice to continue to not heal. And I know that sounds harsh, but we make a choice. Do we want to feel better? Yes. But do we want to do the work to heal? Because it is work, right? And it's not easy work. And I tell everybody I work with, this is not easy. And I'm not asking you to do something that I haven't done, but I promise you that you will not regret this. It is worth it. But you have to take some responsibility. You have to make that choice.
that's like I said, sometimes it takes us getting to that absolute lowest space in our life before we're willing to take that 1% and say, okay, I do need to make a change. But then the feelings that come with it of, like I said, fear really of I don't know if I can let that go because
Mhm.
what if I don't like the new person that I become? What if I don't like how I act? Or, you know, it's a scary place to be in, but I think that's why this program stood out and did so much for me was that I had an accountability partner that was telling me this isn't easy. This is going to be hard, but I'm here with you to walk you through it. And
Mhm.
step by step, unfolding each little bit, feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit less grief every day, making me feel like, hey, maybe I can tackle this. So it sometimes I think it really does take just that one person, like, and sometimes it's a tough love. I've had to do this with a couple of clients myself, like, hey, if you're not going to step up and take accountability for your own actions and showing up here in your own space to help your own healing, I
Mhm.
can't say that you're going to get better at all because if you're not willing to put in the effort, the time for yourself, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're just going to
Mhm.
continue in that deep pit.
Yeah. And if you want to continue being in that victim space,
Mm. Yeah.
we're not going to heal. And I mean, we've all done it. We've all done it in our life.
Hmm.
Let's just be honest. And let's also be gentle with ourselves
Hmm.
that that's happened. But until we're ready to get out of that space, we're not going to heal. So we have to make a choice that we're tired of being in this space. We're tired of identifying with these things and not moving forward and being in pain. And once we're ready to step out of that, then we will begin that work of healing. But until then, as long as we're putting up all those barriers and saying, well, I can't feel better, and this is just how I'm going to live the rest of my life, then we're going to stay stuck, which is a really heartbreaking place to see people in. And I know you see the same thing that I do. We talk to people and they're feeling just miserable. They're barely surviving, yet they're so afraid to just step in because they don't know what it will look like if they do. They don't want to feel all the pain because they're already feeling it and they don't want to feel it anymore. So they just stay in that place until they get to the bottom and they're just tired of it. They just can't do it anymore. And it's destroying other parts of their life because it does. I mean, our grief affects every aspect of our life. So when our relationships start falling apart, when we're having trouble with our jobs, when we're sick, like there's a point that most of us get to where we just can't continue that way anymore. Like we need to change something.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I've seen come up too is we'll start the process and start walking through this, and then you'll feel a little bit better. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, I got this now. We're good. I don't need any
Hmm.
more help. But you haven't really healed much, maybe just like a single layer, and then you fall back into the old habits again without using these new tools to continue forward. And
Right.
so they oftentimes will think, oh, well, I only need to heal this one grief. I don't need to go back and look at this one and this one and this one and continue the healing process. Once you start on healing, it's not just I'm healing this one thing in my life. It's this is my healing journey. This is kind of the rest of my life. I'm choosing to heal every day and different things that are going to continue to come my way.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I look back at why I got into grief recovery and the relationships that were really heavy on my heart. And I worked on those initially, but then all the other ones that I realized, oh boy, there's a lot of pain here.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's normal. Like we are human. We do things in our relationships that are hurtful, you know, and uh, other people do things that don't feel good to us. But instead of stuffing all those emotions down, we can choose to use tools like the grief recovery method to heal that pain so that we don't carry it into other relationships or continue feeling resentful in our current relationships.
Absolutely. It's, I just can't stress the importance of this program and how life changing it truly was. I mean, I've walked several clients through it too who have been through, other therapies, other different programs, and oh, well, I've been through this stuff. It's okay. I'll give it a try. But
Yeah.
watching the light bulbs come on and the changes in their faces and they start lighting up and they're like, oh my gosh, this, like, I do feel better. Like, this is different. Like, what magic is this? And it's like, let's just
Mhm.
keep going. Don't stop yet. We have to keep going. And it's so amazing. And I wish that we didn't have the misinformation out there keeping people from us. I really wish more people were willing and open to learning and just giving it a chance.
Yeah, I 100% agree because I don't think any of us should have to be stuck in emotional pain
Mhm.
because we've had experiences in our life that hurt our hearts. I mean, we all deserve to have a life that's full of joy. Maybe not every day that's going to happen, but we don't need to. be stuck in that stuff that just keeps us in survival mode. And so I think you and I are both saying to people, like, you don't have to stay in this prison of emotional pain. There are tools, um, but you have to change that belief system that you're never going to feel better. And you and I both have example after example of people believing they weren't going to feel better and finally stepping into doing some healing work, and it transformed their lives, including our own. And so that's the message I just want to share. I mean, you're not your story, and your story's not over. Like, you've only had chapters of your life, and the chapters in the future can be ones that are completely different. And you don't have to be suffering in emotional pain, but you have to be willing to do some work.
Absolutely. And like, if anything, I do know I've met some complete strangers and we've come out on the opposite side of this program together as really good friends, because one thing that's important is our circle. And when you get on these healing journeys, oftentimes we our circle shrinks because we don't find safety in a lot of the people that we used to have a safe place in. And hey, remember, this was going on today. And now it becomes like, oh, they're just kind of spreading drama for me and I don't want that. Or this doesn't feel safe. You tighten up your circle and you find people that are here to help you grow and
Mhm.
pour into you. And if that's what either one of us can be for you, is that kind of gateway, if you will, to the start of a new circle of trust, a new circle of people to empower you. Absolutely. Like, reach out to either one of us. We would love to share the program with you and help you find joy in your heart again.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. We don't like people suffering. We don't like to see people with broken hearts believing that they're never going to feel better again, because we know that there is hope. There's hope for all of us.
Yep.
So try to just step out and at least ask for help, and understand that it's important to find those people who can listen and hold space and be safe, because a lot of us don't have those people in our lives that we feel comfortable talking to.
Mhm.
So Janna and I would be honored to have conversations with you if you feel like you're stuck and don't know where to move going forward. Anyway, that's what we wanted to share today because that just came up this week. So, with that, if you have any questions, reach out to us, put comments in the chat, and we'll be back next week. So, take care, my friends.
Thanks for listening in. See you next week.
Yep.